Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast here, broadcasting you live on Twitch at emosocialclub.tv. We have a guest today, Jacques LaMore of the Pop Punk and Pizza podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's so weird, like being welcomed to
a podcast.
Right. Usually I'm the one doing that, so it's like
Right.
so weird. It's so foreign to me. But no, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm really, really grateful you guys asked me to be on. So thank you.
We are happy to have you here. Probably in the same amount of respect and deference as well.
Well, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. So what's up with you guys?
There's this stuff going on outside in the world.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are we doing tonight? What are we talking about? Because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to prepare anything, so I'm just kind of like here.
Listen,
we're prepared some stuff that'll just roll into whatever it is, but
we are consistently interested in having other podcasters on, stealing all your trade secrets, absorbing your essence. It's like you remember have you seen it's the Guitar movie with like Jack White and The Edge and Robert Plant, I think. This Might Get Loud, I think is what it's called, and they all talk about all their like guitar tricks. And there's a part where Jack White is in a car because it's fucking Jack White and he's brilliant, but also I'm pretty sure a ghost of some sort. Like he's definitely like an 1840s ghost that just still is around doing things.
He doesn't use like a cell phone.
Yeah, exactly. He says at one part, all I'm going to do is get these guys to tell me all their tricks and I'm going to steal all that they do. And I'm like, Jack White might be a genius, but he also probably is a ghost. So
he's just not real.
Why he is a genius because he's a ghost.
That's why. That's why his last name is White.
He has literally a century of knowledge.
Yeah, he's not even real.
Yeah. So that's the goal here, is to absorb your knowledge.
Okay. Well, I don't know how much knowledge I have, but I mean, I will.
You've been doing Pop Punk and Pizza for 4 years now. This is your fourth year.
My fourth year just started.
There's some knowledge there.
You don't do something for 4 years and learn nothing.
No, that's very true. You're you're absolutely right.
So why tell us about that. Tell us about the Pop Punk and Pizza Pod. I'm very good at asking questions. Four or five words into the question.
Well, I mean, so yeah, you said 4 years. I started Pop Punk and Pizza in September of 2016, and I started it with the idea of doing both a audio podcast and a video podcast. Mm-hmm. Now the video didn't last too long. It just it took too much time for me. I'm an audio guy, you know. I come from radio, so so it was just a lot of time. It was time consuming to put together a nice video product. You know, put that all together, put it on YouTube, and then do the audio as well. So I eventually just said, screw it. I'm just going to do audio, and that's just how it's going to be, you know? And the idea, since I wasn't, it had been a year since I left the pop punk band I was in called The Projection, but I wanted to find a way to still be a part of the community, the scene. And I started podcasting even when I was still in The Projection. So that wasn't anything new. And since I wasn't in a pop punk band anymore, I just wanted to find a way to still stay connected with everyone. So I I changed the podcast format I was doing, and then made it Pop Punk and Pizza to just kind of um I wasn't really getting a lot of traction with the podcast I was doing before. I was just kind
Mm.
of all over the place. Excuse me. It's kind of all over the place as far as who I would have on and what what the episode was going to be about. It was just I would talk about movies, but then I would talk about pop punk, and then it's just way too much, you know, spreading myself thin, I guess.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I thought, okay, what do I love the most? Because I kept reading online that they said, the podcast expert said you need to talk about something you're passionate about, something you love. And I'm like, well, I love pop punk and I'm addicted to pizza. There it is. And that's the
Put them
cliche of
together.
right. That's the cliche of the pop punk genre, right? Is we're all obsessed with pizza.
Yeah.
So it just kind of worked beautifully. So I mean I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how it started at least.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously, like we come from the same scenes here,
Right.
I was going to ask you, like, literally, why is it that like pizza and pop punk like merges together?
so well.
Like, why is it? But then I'm like, well, it's because pizza's great, and so like there's probably
And it's
pizza's
the only thing
cheap,
open after
it's
a
good,
gig.
and it's available. It's probably more like pizza and everything goes well together because it's pizza.
Yeah.
But certainly there's like that cultural thing about pop punk and pizza going together.
Yeah. It rolls off the tongue with the
Yeah.
P's, all those
Oh,
P's in a row.
alliteration.
Right. It's funny, we were actually talking about this, about why pop punk and pizza are so famously known to go together.
Mm.
We talked about this a couple episodes on the podcast, and we were trying to figure out like if there was a band that like kind of started that whole thing. And we were thinking, maybe one of the the more uh modern heavy influences of that was maybe Newfound Glory.
I was actually like, I'm pretty sure you're going to say Newfound Glory right now. And I'm like, how did how do we know that?
That's the only like pop punk band, like thinking about it, that I could see being like, hey,
how would we all have that though? Because that's like one of those things where like we have that magical brain connection where we're like, oh, Newfound Glory.
Entire theme and vibe of Newfound Glory.
Yeah, but like how?
I think there's multiple reasons. The first one being in it was their second record, Sticks and Stones, it was their second album. In the My Friends Over You music video, when they're shooting the performance shots of the band, the bassist has a pizza delivered to him on stage while they're playing. So there's that, which is just like a little thing. But I don't know. I think since they incorporated that, and at the time they were in like the mainstream's eye, right? So all these kids are watching them, and then all these kids end up becoming the new scene of what pop punk is today.
Yeah.
Or the last 10 years. And I don't know. I think that's part of it.
Like we all just had that like that remembrance. It's like a Berenstain Bears thing where it's like, or the Mandela effect. It's like the Mandela effect of like we all believe. Because now I'm like thinking like if I go back, what if there's no pizza in that video? What if it's not even there? What if pizza and Newfound Glory is a Mandela effect situation?
I mean,
I really like when people talk about the Mandela effect. They're just like, actually, it's just everybody misremembering. I'm like, or think about it.
I mean, it is, but it's also
just came out with a whole thing. They're like, oh, there's time travel, and it's like, why not? Tom Holland just on Aliens. I don't care anymore. Whatever happens 2020, it's all fair game. I will not question most things at this point.
Right,
I'm going to question everything.
And Blank had the aliens. I mean, early on in Blank's career, was talking about aliens in the song. So,
That's how you get the job of lead alien researcher.
Right.
Lead alien researcher Tom DeLonge.
It all started way back when.
Yeah.
So had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
When did Emo Social Club start up? Because I actually don't know that.
We were
a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah, we were 2018, like summer 2018. I remember because it was right before the last Warped Tour, a couple months before the last Warped Tour. So I even think like we recorded the episode and it took us like maybe a few weeks to even like get it back and get it out. It was an idea because I used to be in a emo cover band and Lizzie was co-managing it, being a part of it, like sort of boots on the ground in the band because apparently we needed military support to run this fucking band.
What was the name of the band?
Taking Back Emo.
Okay. Yeah. I remember Taking Back Emo. So is that not a thing anymore?
Well, I would be fine with you believing that it's not a thing anymore because I'm no longer in it.
I gathered that.
Yeah, but it was kind of a no. Yes, thank you. It's fine, but it actually is like it totally is fine. But yeah, it was kind of like a cross promotion with that. Lizzie having a radio background, me always like kind of just wanting to start a podcast to have more like cross promotion with it. But thankfully we did it as a separate thing from the band. Okay. So it was always like, here we are as the band and we have the Emo Social Club podcast. And now Emo Social Club is its own branding, its own thing. That is me and Lizzie, that we are the owners of that. No one else owns it, which is very important when you work with other people who own things. So we took it as our own thing. We made sure that it was entirely under our wing. And so after I left the band and Lizzie stopped working with the band as well, it ended up being that we just took this off and we started using the audience and the platform we already had to say, okay, well, let's just double down on this. Let's keep that emo nostalgia branding going, do our own events, do our own separate things from there. So yeah, a couple of years and, kind of started as me and Lizzie talking to each other about Panic at the Disco and 303 and Warped Tour and all this stuff. And then like Chicago festivals and some music reviews, some stuff like that. But I think over time, and as I'm sure you'll, as you mentioned with your older podcast, and I'm sure you'll know with your current podcast, it's like, it takes a long time to figure out what the fuck you want to do with it.
Yeah. It does. And with me, if I look back 4 years to when this podcast, when Pop Punk and Pizza first started, I've tried so many different things and different formats. And I feel like people probably think I'm crazy because I'll say on this episode, oh, I'm going to start doing it this way. Mm-hmm. And then like it doesn't last. And then I'm on to trying something else. But it also just shows that I'm trying different things and, I'm always trying to improve things or, just change it up every now and then if I need to. I feel like right now I got into another good niche and it seems to be working. So, but it may not work that way forever. I might have to change it a month from now or 2 months or who knows how long it'll flow, well. It might be a long time. It might not be a long time, but that's the thing. We in where we're as podcasters, I feel like more so in any type of online media, you have to obviously constantly be evolving, right? So
yeah.
And there's my dog.
Pop Punk Pizza and Puppies podcast. That's the next.
Yes, and puppies.
It's the next iteration. Yeah, so when you're trying to evolve it into the next thing, it's like just add a puppy in there.
People love puppies.
It's true.
That's not wrong.
No, you're right. You're right. People do love puppies, but yeah. So I definitely get what you're saying. Were you the lead vocalist, or did you play guitar?
No, okay. I was the lead vocalist. It was me and a lot of my close friends from old bands and stuff, and it was very much like a reunion of me and my friends that I played with in bands back in the day. Some of my good friends. So
what other really bands were you in then? I'm just trying to figure out if I possibly know you from a previous lifetime. You never know, man. I played in the projection for 10 years, and we played a ton of shows all over Chicagoland. So,
okay.
I mean,
well, I hate saying the name now because Lizzie's like, but I was in a band called Shotgun Zombie. We are best known for winning the Riot Fest contest to play on like the small stage in 2012. That was the first year they moved it to Humboldt Park out of all the venues.
I
did
remember that.
They did the Do 3 on 2 contest. It was a lot of drama, and I spent probably 18 hours a day just like promoting. This was back like in the day before you could even do Facebook ads. Like no individual page could use the Facebook ad function. You just had to do everything as guerrilla marketing and post a bunch. So I did a lot of that over a few weeks, and it was difficult. But
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and that's literally what we're best known for. I don't even think we're known for putting out good music at this point, but now I play all of our songs.
For DJ streams, though, somebody believes him.
It's because like all my friends who knew the band are like, "Oh, you should play your old music video," and I'm like, "No, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't." But then there'll be like random people who are like, "Dude, this is like cool," because it was at that time when every band was doing. Well, it was like kind of right before there were a lot of bands doing electronic stuff, right before Asking Alexandria, right before Attack, right before, or Attack had been out. But before all these bands like started to get into like the dubstep core, really we were just straight up ripping off Enter Shikari for everything we were doing. But we were like, we're the only local band who can rip off Enter Shikari. So fuck it, we're going to do it. But yeah, people are catching on to it. Sort of. I mean, we broke up in 2013, so winning that contest didn't take us too far.
But I mean, you still did the contest, and you can still say that for the rest of your life. You know, you can say we were the first band that ever won that contest. You know,
oh, they stopped doing it after we won it because it was a lot of drama with one of the other bands.
I don't think so, because didn't
I thought they do it still every year to some capacity.
No, they definitely did it after that, because there was a band that I played on Pop Punk and Pizza that won a contest to play on one of the smaller stages.
Okay.
And once again, my mind is going blank on the name of that band. I've never had them on the podcast. I've just played their music. So I feel like I would remember if they had actually been a guest. Stellar West. That's who it is.
Okay.
Oh, they were. I used to play them on my college radio show because they're from the area that I'm in, and they were like literally like 12 years old.
Right. They were super young.
And I was like, holy shit!
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I want to say like
they're good. Like that's the thing. They're good. They're just like kids. I think now they're like 16, 17, but they're still like
they're still young. I was gonna say they're closer to 20 now, but I think the year that they played Riot had to have been in 15, maybe.
I was about to say, I think 14 or 15.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, they were still doing it a couple years after, 2 or 3 years after you had had won it. But as far as after that, I don't know.
Dude, we had so much drama with this thing. I don't know if this is interesting to anybody because it's like, who the fuck cares about this guy's old band?
You're going to cause chaos with the
I know, whatever. Dude, honestly,
right now.
We were not part of the chaos. We were being attacked because we were doing well. That was basically how I'll tell the story.
I see.
There was one band, I don't think they're around anymore, and if they are, go fuck yourselves. They're called Duck. All lowercase with a period at the end.
Doesn't sound familiar.
They won. They won multiple contests that were put on like this because they just had bots running, and we knew they had bots running because at the same time every single day they rose up in the polls. Like they had like 300 more votes every single day, and we were working hard. Like you could see on all of our social media, on everything we were doing, we were posting constantly.
I am like Googling.
I was doing live events. I was doing all this stuff to get. I had my laptop at a bar that I was DJing at, just like, hey, if you haven't, log in and vote right now. Like I was doing every possible thing I could, and I would watch this band do it. So I started calling them out. I started using Facebook and everything to just say, this band is cheating. I contacted Do 3 on 2. I contacted Riot Fest, and I'm like, dude, these guys are cheating. and they didn't really get back to me. But the next day, they removed 3,000 votes from their page, and so now this fucking band is calling us out like we got them in trouble. I'm like, no, you got you in trouble. You were the ones that were abusing the system. You've done it before. They won a Battle of the Bands thing in Minnesota like before this. Also, this is like 8 years old, so like I don't think they really care, and I don't think
I can't even. I just tried to Google the band.
Yeah,
and I can't even find anything that doesn't,
even
like,
when we were doing it.
suck.
Even when we were doing it at the time, we couldn't find the band. Like there was no social media presence. There was nothing. So we're like, how are these guys getting these votes? So after that, we moved on to the last round, and it was 4 bands. Actually, that was in the. Sorry, I should go back. That was in the last round. There were 4 bands. The 4th place band was like barely doing anything. They're like, we don't really belong here. You guys are like 1,000 votes ahead of us. So it was us and another band after that. After we got them knocked off, kind of. And we were like pretty much neck and neck the entire time. And I had this idea that we should do to get people to vote for us is to do like dating videos. So we had every member of the band do like their own like special dating video to like go to Do 3 and 2 and vote for us. And so we're like talking like in a low voice, like, hey, I just want you to know that you can vote for us at this website. And we would do it in these like seductive poses and all that. And so the first one we did was in the first round, and it like we had so many shares, we had so many votes for this. So I'm like, perfect, fantastic, it's working. We got to the second round, and the other band we were against started to make parody videos of us, like talking shit about us. And I'm like, are you mad because we fucking did something? Like, are you mad because we're like...
Is this other band still around?
They are still around.
Really?
And they were salty as fuck about this. Like, we beat them by 2 votes. We were that close in the end. We were 2 votes ahead of them. And then we were setting up to play. So we played at like noon on on Sunday. We were at an opposite stage of Imagine Dragons. So technically Imagine Dragons opened for us. And we were setting up, and they came to the stage and posted something on their social media like, no one's here to watch this band that won the contest. And I was like, yeah, because it's an hour before we go on stage, dude. Like, you even posted it an hour before our set time. Like, why are you so salty, dude?
Right. Yikes.
Yeah. Well, so that's why I'm like, I don't think they wanted to do it, because we were like really on them. Like, dude, this is important to us. And they were just like, it's more important to you than it is to us. We hate you. And I'm like, I get it. That's fine. I understand. I'm like reaching out to them on social media. Like, I'm tagging Riot Fest. Like, look at what these assholes are doing. Yeah. And they're like tagging Riot Fest. Like, look what those assholes are doing. And I'm like, no, we're not assholes.
Bad. It's so bad when cool contests like that just go sour. You know, that's too bad. But hey, it's all in the past, right?
It is all in the past. Like, it was.
This is 8 years ago in the past.
It's 8 years. I hope. And like I think we were all like 24. Like at our oldest, we were 24. So like, there's no reason that anybody should care anymore. But those guys were already like quite a bit older than we were at the time. Ooh. So maybe they do. Like, I don't know if their age led them to go, you know what? I don't really care about this anymore. I don't know if they're still like, yeah, we should have fucking played that fest. Like,
you never know. I feel like in the scene, there's always going to be some of those people, and you're like, hey, good? You cool? You
I hope that they are doing just fine. They were still around for a while after us. So I don't know if they're currently still active, but certainly they were still doing some stuff after that contest, and we were not. we broke up a year later.
That band is going to reach out to us, and they're going to like try to physically fight Brian.
Let them. I don't know. It's like, dude.
I hope not.
If you can't let shit go now, that's just wrong. Anyway, man. I'm going to stop talking about me, and we're going to start talking about you, because that's why we had you on, and my band was a piece of shit from back in the day.
Well, I'm the one who asked, so.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I hate talking about myself on our podcast and all that.
True. I'm so used to asking questions. I guess I can't help but ask questions.
When you do it for so long, it's hard to get out of the habit. Because it's like, oh no one wants to hear anything about me. It's all about everybody else, but not me.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So, Lizzie, do we have any specific questions so we can transfer the conversation onto that?
So I know that you mentioned earlier, this is obviously a very easy transition, but to get out of this.
How easy?
You were like, I love pizza so much, which I feel like every young adult or teen loves pizza. It's cheap. It's easy. It's usually pretty greasy. It's easy to obtain for the most part. What type of stuff do you like on your pizza, and what's the superior pizza to you?
I love like the meaty pizzas, like the pizzas that have like, 4 or 5 different meats on them. But I haven't been getting those lately. My girlfriend, who her name is also Lizzie, she just likes cheese on her pizza.
Oh,
And so actually does my son. So I've been eating just more cheese pizza lately, just because that's usually like who I'm with. I'm either with Owen or I'm with Lizzie, or sometimes I'm with my family. Like just this last weekend, we had Aurelio's, and there was a sausage pizza, there was Canadian bacon on a different pizza, but pretty much like any meat topping. I love a good uh, barbecue chicken pizza. Specialty pizzas like that, or yeah, and I love it. I haven't seen a pizza place do this in a while, but Pizza Hut has done it before. I think Little Caesars has, but when pizza places have like pretzel crust,
oh,
um,
Yeah.
that, because I love pretzels. I love pretzels so much. So um, that's like a guilty pleasure, and so is like Pizza Hut stuffed crust. Like if I'm gonna get Pizza Hut, I'm only gonna get it for that, and otherwise I do not want Pizza Hut
the fact
because
that you have Pizza Hut really near you and it's like actively sounds like a place that you have ordered from recently blows my mind. I think I know there's a Pizza Hut like 10 minutes down the street that I live on. I
well,
have
aren't you in
not been
Naperville?
there. I am, and there's one 10 minutes down the street from me, and I have not ever gone there.
Well, see, I mean, well, down here in the Kankakee Bourbonnais area, we do have actually quite a few awesome pizza places to choose from. I haven't had Pizza Hut in months. It's been a really long time. I can't even tell you the last time I had it. I normally don't order from chains, and if I do, it's more like a local chain, like I mentioned, Aurelio's. You
Mhm.
know, but I try not to get from the national chains too much. Um, but uh, but yeah, and I do approve of pineapple on pizza.
Good.
I
Good.
think it tastes great, especially if you pair it with, instead of like ham, like pepperoni is a good
Mhm.
combination if you're not into the ham thing, but I'm not against it. I know some people are just like
I
totally.
am
I say
definitely against
whatever.
it.
What if
No.
you want to put M&Ms on your pizza, go ahead. Like if
Fucking
that's
do
what
it.
you
This
like.
isn't Princess Diaries.
Fucking do it.
Yeah, that's
You can
what I
only
was
hope
referring
to
to.
ever be in Princess Diaries, okay?
I
But yes, but
I
whatever floats your boat,
I
whatever makes you
agree.
happy.
I lived in Sweden for 5 months, and one of the first few weeks we were there, we all went out to go get pizza, and they're like, "Oh, you haven't had Swedish pizza," and they
Oh
bring
man.
over this plate, this serving dish of what looked like a salad on bread. Like it was weird. It was a kebab pizza.
A
Uh,
kebab pizza?
yeah. So it had like kebab toppings on a very, very thin piece of bread. And it had like a little sauce spiral on it.
What kind of sauce was it?
Yeah, that's the next question.
Yeah, it was like a kebab sauce. Like if you got like a
Like a
Mediterranean wrap.
tzatziki type thing.
Yeah, it was like a tzatziki,
Okay.
like kind of a little bit like savory tzatziki kind of thing. I it's hard to remember now because this was in 2014, so I don't quite remember what it
You
was,
remember
but
beef from 2020, Brian. I mean 2012.
I remember beef from this year too. So that's true.
It's been a long year, but you remember beef from 2012. So
I remember when people wanted to talk shit about me more than I remember what was on a pizza that I had one time in Sweden over 5 months.
But it's very distinctive.
It is distinctive, but only because I did get a lot of kebabs when I was there because they were fucking awesome. They were so good. But I remember like them saying like, no, this is what real pizza is like. This is like real good pizza. And I was like, well, this is delicious, but it's certainly not like pizza. And then I realized, no, this is pizza. It's just what you did as pizza. And that's fine.
Yeah.
You made your choices. You did this. It doesn't taste bad. Whether or not it's clearly defined as something, that's all just semantics. I think that's stupid. Enjoy what you enjoy. Enjoy the food that you're eating. If it tastes good, if it tastes like shit, then tell the chef, hey, I don't like this. This isn't good. Don't serve this to another human being. But like the debate about pineapple, I'm like, no, you're just fucking elitist. Like,
it's just, yeah. Oh yeah.
Like what you like, don't like what you don't like. That's all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I completely agree, man. I don't usually go out of my way to order, pineapple on pizza, but I'm totally down to eat it,
Yeah.
So,
but I don't order it, but I'm like, you do you.
No, I mean, I usually don't like go out of my way to get it, but if it's there, I'll eat it, So
yeah.
I do like it. I just don't usually order it.
Consume it on like willingly, like not willingly, but like you don't go out your way for it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Most of the time. So, yep. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, the second part of the question was, where do you order your favorite pizza from?
Well, there's so many favorites. I have been having pizza on the podcast virtually with other guests here and there. Hasn't been every episode like we did pre-COVID, but the place I've ordered from the most in recent months is a place called Chicago Dough. They have a location just down the street from my house. They've got a location in Richton Park, and then they have one in New Lenox. So they just have the 3 locations, and it's really, really good. I don't really know what it's comparable to per se. But if you ever get a chance, if you happen to be in any of those areas, I highly suggest it.
Interesting. It sounds like Chicago pizza in Chicago, but
I mean, like they've been around since
style, not like deep dish, or is it deep dish?
Well, they have deep dish, and they've been around since 1975, so they've been around a long time. Obviously, there's other places that have been around longer, like Aurelio's. I forget which. Right, I think they started in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, and then there's places. Yeah. Then there's places that have been around longer than that, so I mean, I love pretty much all the Chicago chains too, Giordano's, Lou Malnati's, Gino's, all those places are good. Beggars is good.
Beggars is
Beggars has saved my life so many times before I hop on the train. At Union Station. I'm like, oh, Beggars, I love this.
It's just like right there when you're commuting.
Believe it or not, we actually have a Beggars here in Bourbonnais, which is just really surprising. But we do actually have one. So I think the influence there might have been, the Chicago Bears used to have summer camp down here for like 18 years straight. And it was just this last year that they decided not to do it. So it could have been, that influence, they could have been like, what about Bourbonnais? Let's put a place down there. I don't know. I know they're not, I know they're the official pizza of the White Sox.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if the Bears have an official pizza place. I don't think they do.
I know that every Sunday when I go into work, when we have the Bears broadcast, we always get free Aurelio's. So I just kind of put those two together. I don't know if that's correct, but for me it is.
Do you work the Bears games?
I'm like in the station sitting there being like, yeah.
Do good sports.
Do you
sports ball.
Do you board up for the games?
No,
or?
I don't board up. I just do like my normal like assistant producer stuff and make sure things running. If like somebody doesn't chime in, I'm like calling them like, hey, where the fuck are you?
That's so funny. Because we broadcast the BBM signal on
Oh,
on our stations.
well, that's sad.
Yeah. So I'll specify just so people actually know what I'm talking about if they ever want to look it up if they care. Um, just real quick. So the company I work for is called Milner Media, and there's 3 stations that they own, and 2 of the stations, um, the Valley, which is an oldie station, and then there's a country station called the River Country. Both of those stations broadcast the Bears games, and we get it off our satellite from BBM. So we've got Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, on our stations whenever the
That's a
games.
big, like, coming to the, like, middle moment here.
It really is, yeah. Other than that, I mean, that's the only, um, you know, that's the only. I don't think we play anything else that's BBM related. I think it's just the Bears. So, but anyway, yeah, small world.
That's
Yeah.
great because you are you're an on-air DJ, but you're like a morning show host, radio
Yes.
DJ.
Yes, I am. That is my full-time gig. Every morning, Monday through Friday, um, 5 to 10. And then when I'm
Jesus.
off the air, I am the production director who is Lizzie, is the person that's in charge of, the producing of all the commercials. I'm not producing all of them, but I oversee it. I do produce a lot of them, but I distribute them to other on air talent in the building to produce. And that's how I have a full-time job. Um, in small market radio, you have to, even in large market radio, you know how it goes. You have to wear many hats in order to be considered
You
full
do
time.
everything and you
Hmm.
never know what a day off is like until you get fired or laid off and get some Rona, and then you're like, "Oh, this is what it's like to not be running on 100 all the time." It's insane. People live like this?
Yes,
Yeah,
we do,
it's
Lizzie.
yeah, now like for me, so most full timers in broadcasting get paid salary. So like um you have days that are really short, but then you've got days that are just so long because there happens to be a ton of commercials coming in that need to be produced, or there's just whatever it is. So I know, I've been putting in some longer days lately just because things have been some busy, but it just, yeah, that's the thing. It's like good and bad. It sucks, but it's also nice that you have the security of knowing you're going to get paid the same. So it just, depends. But yeah, that's um and it's so weird doing radio and podcasting are so similar but so different at the same time. Um Now with I the radio station that I do mornings on is a top 40 station. So it's like, Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, all that stuff. And of course, some of the stuff we do play, we will play older songs like early Fall Out Boy, All American Rejects, Green Day, because those obviously were big hits, and we'll throw
Mhm.
those in there once in a while. Which is nice because then I feel like I'm in my element.
You're like, "I'm
Yeah.
running this and it's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
like I'm
Everyone likes
crossing.
this."
Yeah, I'm like I'm crossing paths now.
Yeah.
Like I've got the podcast and the radio station going.
Yeah.
At the same time. So yeah, I don't know. Did you ask me something specific? You just mentioned that. Yeah, I'm
See,
a
that's the
morning.
thing though. We just roll into
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah, I
fine.
just
Yeah.
roll into
Yeah.
it. I was just trying to think of what else I could say, or if you had any questions specifically about the morning radio gig.
I know you
What's
get
it?
up very early and you
Yeah.
do
I
a lot
do
of
get
things.
up very early.
5 to 10, I will never be able to listen to you because I don't wake up before 10 a.m.
It's very difficult. I know I went in to do some shadowing for the production side of
Hmm.
the morning show at my last radio station, my rock radio station. I was like, this is so goddamn early.
Yeah,
How do people do this?
yeah,
But as
yeah.
I say it, they get up at midnight to go to work at 2:30 in the morning every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nuts. I roll out of bed around 4:15. And I'm just 5 minutes down the street. I'm really
That's how you
close.
do it. That's how you do it.
Yeah, luckily, the house I live in now, I wasn't far to begin with, but now I'm even closer. So I'm only 2 miles away. So I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, you know. So super lucky in this day and age to still have a job in radio, a full-time job. And
Yeah, very, very hard and rare to come by.
yeah, it was already rare. It was already rare, and now it's just even more rare. You know,
Yeah, must be real nice.
You can be like, hey, guess what, everyone here? I have a full-time job and I get benefits, and that's like the biggest flex.
I need to change the subject. I'm
sorry,
under attack
I'm not trying to rub it
in. I make jokes about it all the time. No, you're fine.
Do you have a broadcasting background, Brian?
Nope.
No, just music. Just music.
Yeah, I have a. I don't know if this is. There's people in my life who'd probably be like, "This is because you're a fucking Aquarius or some shit," and I'd be like, "Get out of space! Like, come down from space when you're talking about this nonsense."
Come down to Earth.
First of all, because I'm a Sagittarius, that's why we vibe so.
It could mean nothing. It means nothing to me. What I understand is that because I am an Aquarius, this is why I don't care about what other people have to say to me about fucking astrology, because all I care about is how it affects me and then I move on. But I guess it's like, I've always had this interest in just like doing different things and like learning about it and being a musician and learning how to record and all that. I'm just like, yeah, podcasting seems like pretty easy to do. It's not necessarily easy to create content and create something that people are interested, excited about. So that is always like the struggle of it. I found that certainly the more you keep doing something and the more you work at it, like you're not going to come out the gate knowing exactly what to do and knowing exactly what people want immediately. That's not how it works. But if you keep at something and you keep hacking away at it, there is something to be said about how you're literally in public hacking away at something in front of people, and people are like, "Oh, this sucks. You should stop doing this." And you're like, have to push that voice away and keep doing it.
And you hope that they're actually not real. Like, hey, this actually does suck, and it's just their bad opinion.
I've learned that if you're not getting any opinions, that's when you know you suck. If you're getting any opinions, then at least you're getting in ears, and there's somebody who has heard you and they know you, and they could be giving any reason as to their feedback. But if they're not giving constructive feedback at all, then you're not even getting in the ears. So that's where I'm like, don't worry about it until we start getting constant hate on Twitter, which Lizzie has to deal with because I don't go on Twitter. Then we're fine.
They like spicy takes, and I'll be like, I have to go deal with that on Twitter.
Yes. Please give Lizzie all your spicy takes on Twitter.
My spicy takes? You want me to give you a spicy take right now?
Dude, we would love that. Please give a spicy take.
Spicy take. Man. Well, I don't know.
We usually make it like
rip out to say that like you absolutely detest the MGK album. That would be a spicy,
that's Anthony Fantano type shit.
Yeah. From what I can tell, there are actually more people that like Machine Gun Kelly's pop punk album than the people that hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen more good things than bad things. Maybe I'm just seeing something different than what you guys are seeing. But
I see the DIY kids who are very salty. It seems that's how I perceive it. I feel that they are salty.
Interesting.
Well, could not create a Blink-182 ripoff and do it well.
But here's the thing: there's so many things you have to take into accountability with Machine Gun Kelly and this album that he's considering pop punk. Mm-hmm. It is 2020. MGK. So, well, yeah, okay. With the first thing I said, it's 2020. Pop punk, whatever form of pop punk that gets put out into the mainstream, which is Machine Gun Kelly, it's not going to sound like what it did in whenever the last mainstream pop punk album was, which I don't know.
Yeah, that's not really definable anymore. That's like saying, what was the last like true emo album before like we got into like the early 2000s?
The Black Parade.
Popular emo. No,
That's
some
where
people won't even consider My Chem.
Fuck those people.
Emo.
They're very wrong. They're so wrong. Black Parade is the last good emo record.
Gonna come for our asses.
Please.
So yeah, it's not going to sound the same. He's obviously going to inject his own flavor into it, and what he knows is he's known for being a rapper. So he's going to take that. Either you can label him as a rapper or just a pop singer. So of course he's going to bring that to the table, but also he brought Travis Barker to the table. So he did right there. And then the next thing, some of the things I've been seeing some people say, which I'm really surprised to see this, they're saying that MGK saved pop punk. And that's something I firmly disagree. Just like any genre where you say, oh, so-and-so saved it, or this genre was dead, yada, yada. It just depends on what context. Now, if you're talking about in the mainstream, then, well, he didn't save it. He just, kind of put something new into the mainstream's eye. And that hasn't been done, like we just said. And in a number of years, I mean, I don't know, the closest thing that comes to it as far as newish is probably 5 Seconds of Summer. And obviously that was huge. Whether this is going to be that huge, I don't know, but either way, it is still at this moment in the mainstream's eye. And, I think it's awesome, so it's pop punk never died. It's been flourishing like crazy for years now. It's just not, this is the first time in a while that it's come back to the mainstream. So no, he didn't save it. It wasn't dying. It's just
he brought it to more listeners, I guess.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. He had the opportunity. He had people that believed in him. I just really hope that he gets some singles that charts well on this record that, break.
They said Bloody Valentine, which was like kind of like the main single, I were to assume, went gold already.
That's great.
It's been out only like 3 or 4 months, I think.
Yeah, not super duper long. So that's not bad, especially considering the kind of climate we're in for music. That's pretty good. I haven't seen, like, as far as the charts go, if it's, made it to the mainstream top 40 at all, which is the station I'm on. I haven't seen, if he's got any of his singles in the top 40 yet, but I really hope that I can play them on my station that I work for. That would be awesome.
I were to think it's coming soon because he's such a large artist in general with like in the rap scene to an extent. I feel that if he dropped an album, whatever genre it would be, his fans, regardless, his pre-existing fans would be like, why isn't he being played on the radio? I mean, again, he is like a major artist. Not saying that every major artist that drops an album is always going to be on the radio.
Right.
But when you are as big as MGK has been, I mean, like Fall Out Boy brought him on tour with them.
Right.
When they did their first like huge like big
when he was beefing with Eminem.
Yeah, when he was beefing with Eminem. So I feel like you cannot not put at least one song on. I know I've heard Bloody Valentine on like KQX, the alternative rock station, but I'm wondering if they would put any of the ones where there are other collaborative rappers on like the top 40 station, so people can be like, okay, this is more like the normal like kind of pop rap sound that's like really popular right now, and it would kind of bring them back in.
I think there's a song with Black Bear, right?
Yeah.
That one I believe is currently being pushed to top 40.
Yeah.
I can see that. I know that All Time Low, their song with Black Bear.
They're like top of the charts now.
Yeah. I think they have been playing on Alt Nation because I have Sirius XM. They have been like on Alt Nation like for the last like 2 months with that song. Every time I got in my car, it was on.
I'm very surprised about. Well, I guess I'm surprised about All Time Low because that's awesome for them. Like it's really cool that All Time Low is number one as a band. But here's my take of the MGK record, because this is a bigger ended thing here.
Oh,
I'm sure the listeners are enjoying hearing my voice. It's doing great. All Time Low, number one with Black Bear. MGK does a song with Black Bear, and that song is being pushed to radio. Both of the songs sound, as I made Lizzie post on Twitter for me, they sound like the best Blink-182 records without Tom. So both of them are just the exact are similar-ish sounds. Like, I've had some MGK songs stuck in my head that were actually Monster by All Time Low.
Oh my God.
Like, I'm like, oh wait, I'm singing the wrong song in my head, and it all kind of like ends up blending together. That's not a diss. Like, I like the songs. I'm enjoying the music.
I will interject and say, when I first heard new All Time Low, their album is very solid. But when I put it on a playlist shuffle, which I very rarely do for myself, I usually listen to albums straight through, but I had like a playlist shuffle, and I dead ass thought it was Green Day. And I was like, when did Green Day drop a new single?
Really? I never
It's All Time Low.
I never thought that when I listened to the new All Time Low, and I think the new All Time Low record is great. What I was also going to say about MGK though, is the record sound, there's a lot of Blink-182 vibes to it. And obviously his sound of pop punk is it's not breaking the mold, really. Right. It's not, it's not really pushing any boundaries too much. I mean, obviously, as I stated earlier, he is putting some of his originality into it, but it's not really breaking the mold. So I'm not saying it's this amazing album. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, it's a good album, and it's great that there's something in the pop punk realm that's on a mainstream label right now. Mm-hmm. That's new, that's not a band that's been on a mainstream label for the past 20 or 30 years, Yeah. So, and which there really aren't that many that are. I mean, there's really, if you think about it, which ones are? Well, I mean, Green Day, they're kind of, they've never really considered themselves pop punk. Just some of their fans have, right?
Right.
And I think their last record was their last major label record with Reprise. Mm-hmm. And then Blink, I mean, that's
just great job, guys. Great job. Yeah. Just good job, guys.
So, I mean, it's just it's nice to have something new. So yeah. I have nothing but good things, good thoughts. And I'm ashamed of the people that haven't been welcoming and have said a lot of nasty things, because nothing stays the same forever. And we should be welcoming of everyone in the scene, regardless, the people that are saying it sounds so horrible and so trashy, and, they just don't like it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's
something you should like harp on if you dislike it.
No, it's not a dumpster fire.
What?
I mean,
right.
Lizzie, you're on Twitter. That's literally what they do there.
That's literally what it is. I have seen people, because I will agree, MGK's personality is definitely kind of like, from what I've seen, I don't know the dude in real life, but the persona he gives out is definitely like an angry 60-year-old kid who's like, yeah, anarchy and I hate my mom type thing.
I agree with that.
That sounds like Youngblood.
I get it. I
think they're very similar.
Yeah. But that's, and I've seen it. People are like dissing him because of the personality that he has. And I'm like, but that doesn't reflect the music necessarily. And we can hear that. Like, you can hear that in a lot of his rapping too. Like, I've never been a rap MGK fan whatsoever. I tried to listen to some of his albums when he was opening for Fall Out Boy, just to like get the vibe. Mm-hmm. I could not vibe at all. It just didn't hit. I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's a couple of his singles with some pop singers that I have played on my morning radio show that I like. If I'm not mistaken, there's one with Camila Cabello that's really good. I think it's Machine Gun Kelly. I got to double check, but I could have
a lot of cameos with different people. So who knows? Yes. You could be correct. You could be wrong. There's about like a 75% chance you are correct, though.
I should Google that real quick because I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right person. Let's see.
We don't do corrections on this podcast, so it's fine. You can say whatever you want, and we'll just.
I'm just curious now.
Wrong, sure, but if it's minor, meh.
We won't do corrections.
I'm just curious. I just have to put my mind at ease.
Yeah.
I was right. It's a song called "Bad Things." It's a really really great song. So yeah, he does his rapping in that song, and Camila Cabello does, her singing. So it's a good song. But that was one of the first. It might have been one of the first songs I ever heard by him. Was that one? So, and that song is probably 3 or 4 years old, something like that. 2017. So 3 years old.
So yeah, not that far removed.
No, nope.
Still getting super close to it. I remember even before all that, the first time I heard him was on the Sleeping with Sirens song. That was a really hard sentence to say. Sleeping with Sirens song.
Say it a couple times in a row, like a tongue twister. See
Sleeping
how far
with Sirens song. It was a song. I only remember this because it was called Alone, and he rapped on it. And it was released like the exact same day that Ronnie Radke and Falling in Reverse put out their song called Alone that he was rapping on. And I was like, what happened? What happened today? They both did the exact same thing.
Well, here's the thing. One of them is good. The other is terrible.
That Sleeping with Sirens song,
terrible.
I will not. Sleeping with Sirens can be a very good band. That was not a very good song. It was just not. That was not them at their best.
Comparatively.
I mean, I like a lot of their older music, and I like some of their newer music. I'll put it that way. That just was. I think that was like one of their records where they were like, we're kind of done with our label. We're trying to like put out something to kind of move on in our career, try something different. We needed to like put out something to have it here. And we can work with MGK. That'll be cool. And then Ronnie Radke's like, yeah, I'm going to be a rapper now too.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Trying to bring grindcore back, but really Death Grips already did that, and nobody else asked anybody else to try.
Ronnie Radke, you could be so much better, but also it's fine. Just do you.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, man. I've never been a huge fan, but I know some people that like him,
There was a girl that I used to be friends with actually back in elementary school, and then we lost contact, and then we ended up going to community college together.
Huh.
And then we were not friends after community college for different reasons. And she reached out to me on Instagram like maybe 2 years ago out of nowhere. It was like, hey, I found your Instagram. I'm like, clearly. And she was like, oh, hey, I hope, like very like goodwill, like, hey, hope you're doing well, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. And then I was like, all right, as a very curious person, let's do some social media stalking to see how things are really going. And turns out they're like a huge Ronnie Radke fan, being like, Ronnie Radke saved my life. I'm like, this is me introducing you to emo pop punk music was the worst thing, and I am so sorry. And I will go to your parents' house and apologize to them right now.
Oh man,
I've made a mistake.
Yeah, I'm not attracted to the guy.
Okay,
really,
that's fair.
I try. I hate to talk crap about people that I don't actually know or have never met. But I'm just not overall attracted to what he does.
Yeah.
So
very fair.
I will say that. So
if you had to pick like the bands that you talk, no, I mean it's not a spicy take, but it's like who would be like the bands that you talk about the most on your podcast? Like if you're talking with a band, like I feel like we've had very consistent conversations about bands, both in positive ways and in negative ways. More often we talk about the spicy takes about bands we think of negatively. But I'm wondering if like when you have a guest on or you're talking to people, like do you talk about like pretty consistent characters keep popping up?
Oh yes. I was actually just talking about this the other night. And I always wonder, if I'm annoying any of my listeners and if it's like turns them off, because like Jake's got to bring up ska again, or Jacques, I should say, because I'm known as Jacques on my podcast, but Jake on the radio. But either I answer by either name. But anyway, so yeah, I wonder if they're listening like, Jacques is mentioning ska again. Like, really? Like, can you go one episode without talking about ska music? I bring up Green Day probably almost every single episode. If near close anyway, just because they're one of my all-time favorite bands of all time. Big reason why I got into music and just continue to have my foot into the music world. And I bring up Less Than Jake a lot. Real Big Fish a lot. I mean, MXPX. I talk about Mike Herrera from MXPX all the time, just because, not as much as I used to, but I still do. I still listen to his podcast. His podcast is great. But when I listened to it more on a frequent basis, when I was commuting to and from school, I still do. I name drop him on my podcast just from, I heard Mike Herrera on his podcast talk about this. And so, I bring him up all the time, and I'm a huge MXPX fan. So I pretty much, the bands I bring up all the time are the bands that I love so much. So, another one would be Goldfinger. I guess Blink obviously gets brought up. But I feel like maybe not as much as the others. So
we bring up Blink a lot, and I don't even care for Blink that much. Like, I really don't listen to Blink 182 at all.
I think it's just because Blink seems to be the band that more people care about more in our scene, or maybe care isn't the right word. I don't know what it is, but
I feel like they're such like a foundation basing that if you were to tell somebody, like if you told somebody who like doesn't really listen to like the music that we often listen to, and you said, "Oh, I listen to like pop punk or emo," they'll be like, "Who?" And it's like whenever somebody asks me that, I'm like, if it's more pop punk, I'm like Blink-182, and they'll be like, "Oh, okay." If it's emo, I'm like the newer emo that everyone on Twitter hates. I'd be like Fall Out Boy or old Panic at the Disco. People are like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I get that."
Yeah.
But if you were to be like more obscure, they'd be like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah. Well, I think what it is, too. This just came to mind. I think I answered my question, or maybe our question. I think Blink is more associated with the pop punk scene, today's pop punk scene. And then Green Day is more affiliated with maybe punk, a little punk and just rock, because that's who they associate themselves with more. Whereas, like, for instance, Blink brought out Neck Deep on, the big Enema of the State 20th anniversary tour. Neck Deep is a part of the newer pop punk scene. Green Day, they usually don't, they haven't really brought out too many like pop punk bands from that scene that we associate ourselves from too much.
If the Hella Mega Tour, they had like the classic, they had Weezer, and then they also, the only person they're really bringing on were the Interrupters, which is a ska
punk band. Ska punk band. Yeah.
So we're still in the same, vein here, basically. And because Green Day was like originally like stoner doom metal. I mean, not metal, stoner rock was pretty much what they were originally when you look at like Kerplunk and like Dookie to an extent. So it's very, different.
It's
plus
different.
They're also kind of like mainstream radio in a sense. Because I can't tell you how many times a day I would hear Longview or
sure. Well, same with Blink though.
Right, with Blink too, you'll hear all the small things, especially in the summer, like fucking crazy, and they're like, "Hey, do you know anything else?" And it's like, "Oh, the small thing." That's it. That's all you. That's all you get.
You gotta play it.
It's just Green Day will still bring out, smaller bands on their tours and stuff, as well as the bigger ones. But I think it's just, I just think it's who they associate with is a little. I mean, some of them are they Blink and Green Day associate with some of the same bands, but still, I think it's just kind of, I mean, Billy Joe has made it very clear, on Twitter that he does not like being called, pop punk or punk pop or whatever. Like he does not like that. I don't think any of them probably do. So,
he should have thought of that before he put on the tie and wrote about George Bush and had like the Avril Lavigne style and shit back at the same time.
But at the same time, that was very punk rock at the same time.
That wasn't very pop punk.
It was more inspirational than it was taking off of what other people were doing. So totally. But then it's like you created a scene. The scene was created out of your image. Now that scene exists with that image. So of course people are going to associate it in hindsight and say, well, you were the godfathers of that, so therefore you are also part of it. And they're like, shit, man, we shouldn't have worn the fucking ties. Should have put on the eyeliner, dude.
Took off the eyeliner and been like, no.
Take off the eyeliner, bro. It was that that same era as like the Untitled record with Blink, and it's like you're doing that thing, you're now leading down that road, as opposed to being seen as like the creators of it. You're just going to be seen as adopting it. Now that we're looking back in history and our ability to tell time is worse now, but our ability to like look back at things and like have the retrospect is going to be so much more difficult the farther away we get from it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. That's true. But I don't know. Obviously, that's just everyone has their own view and their own take, and I guess that's just kind of how I look at it. They come from the same. They're put in the same category a lot of times, but they're yet so different. In the same realm, but it's still just so different. Green Day was snotty, not as silly as Blink. Blink was more silly and
ridiculous.
Yeah. And of course, Green Childish. Day was too. They're both immature, but in their own ways. Yeah. When they first started out,
Right.
Totally.
And obviously they both grew up though too. So, whether people liked that or not of either band, that's
right.
up to them.
That's
because
on them.
Right. You got some people that love the grown-up Green Day, hate the grown-up Blink, and then vice versa. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and here's a what were you calling it? A hot take?
Spicy takes.
A spicy take. My favorite Blink album is California.
That is a
interesting
take.
And I know so many people. I know so many people would disagree with me, but I love that record. I think it's probably just because it speaks to me more now than going back and listening to Enema of the State, which was, my favorite as a kid. It might just be the content of it, I might relate more to the lyrical content of California now because I'm an adult versus, when Enema came out, I mean, it was just like silly talking about high school and people getting high and goofing off and, whatever. It's just different. I like California.
So Jake, let's get some plugs in. Why don't you tell us where people can find you, find the podcast, find you on social media, all that good stuff.
So, social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's all the same handle. It's Pop Punk Pizza Pod. The website that the podcast gets posted from and goes out to all the platforms is currently bangarangradio.com. I'm actually I'm going to be building I'm in the midst of building a new website that's just got the Pop Punk and Pizza name. Bangarang Radio was originally the name of my original podcast, and then I made it into a little network, and some of my other friends had podcasts, but now it's just me, and it's not making sense at the moment. It's not helping me. So I'm making a website right now. I'm getting close to finishing it. And that'll just be its own thing, but that's down the road. The podcast is on all the, the major platforms, iTunes, or actually I should say Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google. I just submitted to Amazon. I haven't checked to see if we're up there yet.
Yeah. We just got approved for it recently, and I wish I had an Alexa to check.
Yeah, I haven't. Did they send you an email to tell you when it's up? I couldn't remember.
Email. It was like, "Hey, you're on here," and I'm like, "I don't believe you." And then I had to like go and search it like on like Amazon on like the normal page, because I don't think that there was like a direct link for it, or you had to like download an app if you were on your phone. So I had to get on my computer, go to Amazon Music, and then search it, and then it popped up. So it's not an easy way to like double check.
Yeah, it probably the easy way is, like I said, if you have the app, it probably is, I don't use Amazon Music, but the monster that Amazon is, it's like, well, I need to get the podcast up
just
there,
have
right?
it there. Yeah.
So I think I just filled that out at the beginning of the week. So it could be up by now, but I don't know. But pretty much we're on all the, the big platforms that everyone knows. As far as trying to think, as far as guests coming up, I just recorded an episode today with a guy named Demi the Daredevil, and he's very he's along the emo realm for sure. Very Halloween appropriate, like Panic at the Disco, early Panic, like kind of that theater sound to it. Really, really, really talented guy. It's just one guy. His name is Jeff, but he goes by Demi the Daredevil. That podcast is going to be coming out on Tuesday, October 6th. And then I put out two episodes a week. So usually Tuesdays and Thursdays there's a new episode. So just to make that work, easy, man. But it is a lot of work, but it is. I spend so much, I do stuff literally almost every day for the podcast, but I'm just trying to pave my way just like everybody else, and it's been so cool to be able to meet so many new people like you guys, through podcasting, whether it's other podcasters or just artists, whether they be known or not. It's really cool to meet these people and talk to them and get their music heard, and get their stories heard. I just the most recent episode that I just posted this week was with the Collar Brothers of Sick of It All, which is a well-known hardcore punk band from New York City. Yeah. Started in the 1980s, and I never really knew much about them. I had always heard the name pretty much because I never got too much into hardcore punk. And then I had the opportunity, I was presented with the opportunity to interview them about their autobiography that just came out. And it was super interesting to read about what the hardcore punk scene was like with CBGBs in New York. And just hearing their take on that and just the whole band, because obviously from 1986 until now is a really long time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of turns and ways from
that's my entire age. It's my entire ass age. Shit.
Yeah, my brother was born my oldest brother was born in 86 as well. So I was born in 90. A lot of shit happened. So
a lot of bad shit happened, specifically to me.
See, every podcast episode is just reminding Ryan how ancient he is.
Well, when you stepped away for a second, he's like, when you were like 12 or however old you were when the Untitled record by Blink came out, I'm like, I was an adult. Like,
oh my God.
Almost.
But it's like, I wasn't really. I was almost, to go into college. So like, it was closer.
No, that's not an adult. You're still a whole ass
kid. Yeah, I was not acting like an adult. That is accurate. You're a kid until I don't know what it is. I really don't know
until you decide.
Yeah.
Honestly. Or
one day
I
really started enjoying.
Yeah, because some people don't even choose. Some people still just choose to act childish at 50 or whatever age they are.
That is Blink-182. They are still acting like children, even though
that is Mr. Mark Hoppus over there.
Yeah, Mark Hoppus is still a child. I one day just started enjoying cleaning up my apartment, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm an adult. Like, this is it. This is the one.
So I guess those are the plugs. I've got some really exciting episodes coming up. With I always try to keep it mixed up. I think I was talking to Lizzie before the show saying I always have Chicago-based artist-based bands on the podcast, but I go outside to other bands in the U.S. or even outside the U.S. Between bands that people don't know to bands and artists that people do know. Coming up in this month in October, and I think maybe even to November, I'll have some more well-known names mixed in with bands that you should definitely check out. And also I'm hoping to, there's a couple people that I'm going to be talking to that are more like behind the scenes of big people or more well-known people. And I think it's always interesting to talk to those people that might be, a tour manager or a producer, or, it's especially during this time, like, it's like the perfect opportunity to talk to someone like a tour manager because, well, they're not on tour. They've got, they're
trying to figure it out to see whatever happens.
Right. True. And so now's a good time to get their life story. If they want it, because they've got stories. I mean, if they've there's one that I talked to, I won't put the name out just because it's not solidified yet, but one that I've talked to, the band that that he tour manages for, I mean, he's done it for 25 years, the same band. I mean, so it's bound to have some good stories,
Oh yeah.
So I think it's good for people to hear from, like I said, those people from the behind the curtain, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
yeah, one of the last bands that you did interview, like a bigger name band, was like Stand Atlantic.
Yes.
I saw.
Yes. Talk to Bonnie. Yeah. That was incredible. They're one of my favorite newer bands in the pop punk scene, and getting to talk to her was just great. She was a lot of fun. She even roasted me a little bit, which was funny. That was whenever I get those opportunities, it's just so cool and such an honor that I get a little bit of their time and get to talk about their art and what they do on a daily basis, or whatever it is we end up talking about. And when you're able to just have a normal conversation with them, there's just something so cool about that. It shows the fans that they're just as human as anybody else, so.
Awesome.
So just to get your last tidbit, I know you mentioned earlier and in general about local Chicago-based pop punk bands. What are some of the ones that you think people should be checking out?
I know I'm going to be talking to coming up soon on the Guardrail, of course, and Guardrail.
Yeah.
Their new EP is just amazing. If you haven't checked out Yikes by Guardrail, make sure you do so. It's the best work they've ever put out. If you've listened to them before and thought kind of like, they're okay, like this EP really knocks it out of the park. So I got to put their name out there. I really like World War Me. I was recently introduced to them. They just put out a new single called Stunner. They're going to be on the podcast at some point soon. Steven from World War Me, I've talked to him recently about doing an interview, and I really liked what I heard from him. So those are just a few. I could go on forever. You know, I really like the fact that the band Make Out, half of them are from Chicago now. They put out a new single here in the last couple months or so, and Kyle D, who used to be in the Frantic, is their new frontman, and he's going to take that band to the next level and where they should be. And I definitely fully support them. And I really think whenever they do put out an EP or a full release of some kind, people will really like it. So, and more so than the first record, So yeah, like I said, I could go on forever about Chicago bands. So
sweet. Well, we'll go ahead and end the podcast recording there. If you're on Twitch, hang out. We'll keep chatting. We'll be here for a little bit longer. But otherwise, just for the podcast part of this, Jake, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the club.
You guys.
You kept saying it on all your posts. I'm like, you're part of the club now.
I'm part of the club now. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I've always, always wanted to join a club, and I'm finally a part of the club. So.
Yeah, it's the cool kids club.
Right, the cool kids.
We're the nerd kids club or something.
Brian and
Lizzie. We're so cool.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you guys for having me. This has been an honor and a pleasure. So
for sure.
Thank you.
Go subscribe to the Pop Punk and Pizza podcast. You cowards, you jerks. Don't be a nerd. Go do it.